They thought I was just a tired old man who didn't understand what was happening. They were wrong. And the moment I opened that storage unit in Mississauga, everything my wife had quietly built for 31 years came pouring into the light. My name is Leonard. I'm 68 years old. I spent my career working as a civil engineer for the City of Toronto. 40 years of early mornings, site visits in February cold, and pension contributions I never once touched. I thought I understood how the world worked. I thought I knew my own family. My wife, Barbara, was the quiet one between us. She never raised her voice. She never boasted. When our son was born, she went back to part-time work at a dental office in Etobicoke and never complained about it. When our daughter came along 4 years later, she cut her hours even further. I was the one with the big salary, the RRSP, the house in the west end of Scarborough with the maple tree in the backyard that Barbara planted herself in 1997. I always assumed I was the one holding our finances together. I was wrong about that too. Barbara died on a Thursday in November. It was a stroke, fast, no warning, no long goodbye. We had been married 43 years. She was 65. We had plans, a trip to the Maritimes in the spring, a renovation to the bathroom she had been asking about for 6 years. Grandchildren she wanted to spoil. Instead, I found myself sitting in our kitchen 3 days after the funeral, still in the same flannel shirt I'd worn to the service, holding a mug of tea that had gone completely cold. Our son, our daughter-in-law, and our daughter arrived that Saturday. I thought they were coming to check on me. To bring food, maybe, to sit with me the way families are supposed to do. They came with a notepad. My daughter-in-law, she had been married to my son for 11 years at that point, sat down at my kitchen table and placed a folder in front of her. Not a sympathy card. A folder. She asked me if I had thought about next steps. She said it with the kind of practiced gentleness that isn't really gentle at all. She said she and my son had been doing some research, and they felt that perhaps at my age, with everything that had happened, it might be worth considering some assisted living options. My son didn't look at me when she said it. My daughter stared at her phone. I asked them what they were talking about. I wasn't sick. I wasn't confused. I had just lost my wife 11 days ago. My daughter-in-law smiled and said that grief can be very disorienting and that it might be wise to have the house assessed. She had already spoken. She said, already spoken, like this was a done thing, to a real estate agent in the neighborhood. Houses in Scarborough were selling well. The timing was good. I sat very still. The maple tree Barbara planted was right outside the window behind them. Its branches were bare. November had stripped it clean. I told them I needed some time, that I wasn't making any decisions, that I would call them next week. My daughter-in-law nodded like I hadn't understood and explained again, slower, that it was really in my best interest. My son finally looked at me and said, "Dad, we just want what's right for you." He said it like a man reading from a script someone else had written. After they left, I sat in that kitchen for a long time. I didn't cry. Something in me had gone very quiet and very cold, the way the ground gets in January, hard, frozen, and much deeper than it looks. 3 weeks after the funeral, I began going through Barbara's things. Not to clear them out, I wasn't ready for that, but because the insurance company needed certain documents. Barbara had kept all her personal papers in the bedroom closet, in a set of accordion folders she organized with color-coded tabs, red for medical, blue for banking, green for the house. I found the green folder easily enough. I found the red one, But where the blue folder should have been, there was a small envelope instead. White, no writing on the outside, tucked against the wall of the closet shelf like it had been placed there deliberately, not forgotten. Inside was a key, a small silver key with a plastic tag on it. The tag had a number and a letter written in Barbara's handwriting, U14. Below that, in the same small print she used for grocery lists, Brampton Road Storage, Mississauga. I turned it over in my hands. In 43 years of marriage, Barbara had never mentioned a storage unit, not once. I didn't sleep much that night. I told myself it was probably nothing. Old boxes, Christmas decorations, things she didn't want cluttering the basement. But I knew that wasn't it. Barbara didn't keep secrets for the sake of keeping them. She was the most deliberate person I'd ever known. Everything she did for a reason. It took me 4 days to go. I don't know why I waited. Maybe I was afraid of what I would find. Maybe I needed those 4 days to accept that there was something in my marriage I hadn't known. Brampton Road Storage was a low beige building off the 401 near Mississauga Road. I found it on a gray Wednesday morning in December, the kind of day that feels like the sky has given up. The woman at the front desk checked the unit number without blinking, asked for ID, and pointed me down a corridor that smelled like cardboard and old carpet. Unit 14 was about the size of a walk-in closet. When I unlocked it and pulled up the door, I stood there for a moment and didn't move. It was organized the way Barbara organized everything. Plastic bins, clearly labeled. A filing cabinet, a small 2-drawer one, pushed against the wall. A banker's box on top of it. And taped to the inside of the door, at eye level, a sealed envelope with one word written on it. Leonard. I opened the filing cabinet first. I don't know why I didn't open the letter right away. Maybe I needed to understand the world I was standing in before I read her words. The first drawer held investment records, TFSA statements, non-registered accounts. I pulled out a folder and looked at the numbers and had to sit down on one of the bins because my legs stopped working properly. Barbara had been contributing to a tax-free savings account since the program launched in 2009. Every year, maximum contribution. She had also been running a non-registered investment account through a discount brokerage I'd never heard of. Nothing dramatic, just index funds, held for decades, compounding quietly. The second drawer held property documents, not for our house in Scarborough, for a condominium unit in Hamilton, purchased in 2008 in Barbara's name only, rented out continuously, managed through a property management company. 16 years of rental income deposited into an account I had never seen. I opened the banker's box. Inside were monthly bank statements going back to 1993, a checking account at a credit union in Mississauga, 31 years of deposits, 31 years of small, consistent amounts, her part-time income, routed to this account from the very beginning of our marriage. The total across everything. The TFSA, the investment account, the condo equity, the credit union account was just over $1.2 million. Barbara had built a separate financial life over 31 years, and I had never known it existed. I sat on that bin in the cold storage unit and stared at the wall for a very long time. Then I opened the letter. Her handwriting was steady, the way it always was. She started by saying she hoped I wasn't angry. She said she knew this would be a shock, and that she was sorry for that part, but not for the rest of it. She wrote that she had started the credit union account in 1993 after something happened that she had never told me about. Our son, who was 8 years old at the time, had stolen $40 from her purse. When she confronted him, he lied. Not a child's clumsy lie. A smooth, practiced one. She wrote that something in her went cold that day, and that she had spent 31 years watching him, watching who he became, watching who he chose to marry. She wasn't cruel about it. She didn't call him names. She just said she had seen enough to know that when she was gone, he would try to take things that weren't his. And she had spent 3 decades making sure he couldn't. She wrote about the condo in Hamilton. She had bought it with money saved from her dental office work, money she'd set aside over 15 years, while I assumed all of it went into our joint account. The rental income had funded the investment accounts. She had done everything through separate institutions, separate correspondence, separate everything. She wrote, "I did not do this because I didn't trust you, Leonard. I did it because I didn't trust what would happen to you after I was gone. There is a difference." She had already spoken to an estate lawyer in Mississauga, a woman she had used for years, whose card was paper-clipped to the letter. The estate had been structured carefully. The house in Scarborough was mine outright. Our joint ownership had been confirmed in updated documents 2 years before she died. The investment accounts in the condo were in a trust. I was the sole beneficiary of the trust. Our son and daughter were entitled to a fixed amount each. "Enough to be fair," Barbara wrote, "but not enough to be greedy." The letter ended like this: "You always thought you were the one looking after me. I let you think that. It made you happy, and you deserved to be happy. But I was looking after you the whole time, Leonard. I always was. Please don't be alone too long." I read it twice, then I folded it carefully and put it back in the envelope. I drove home on the 401 in afternoon traffic, and I didn't turn on the radio. I just drove. I called the estate lawyer that evening. Her name was Dr. Osei, a calm, efficient woman who sounded like she had been expecting my call. She confirmed everything. The estate was already in probate. The trust documents were filed. My son had no claim on the investment accounts or the condo. The house was mine. There was nothing to contest. I asked her if my son knew about any of this. She said he did not yet. I asked when he would find out. She said soon. I spent the next week doing something I hadn't done in years. I slept. I ate properly. I walked in the neighborhood in the mornings, through streets I had driven for 4 decades, but never actually walked. I started cleaning out the bathroom, finally the renovation Barbara had wanted. I called a contractor and described exactly what she had described to me. Heated floors, the double vanity, the freestanding tub. My son called on a Wednesday evening, about 10 days later. His voice had a different quality than usual. Tighter. He asked if we could talk. I said yes. "Come over Thursday evening." He came alone, without his wife, which surprised me. He sat at the kitchen table where she had sat with her folder, and he looked like a man who had received news he didn't know how to process. He asked me why Mom had set things up the way she had. He said it wasn't fair. He said he and his wife had been planning, had made assumptions, had spoken to people. I let him talk until he ran out of words. Then I said, "What were you planning to do with this house?" He didn't answer right away. I said, "Did you speak to a real estate agent before your mother was even buried?" He looked at the table. I told him what Barbara had written in her letter. Not all of it, just enough. I told him she had been watching for 31 years, that she had seen things, that she had made choices accordingly. I told him he would receive what she had left him, which was a fair amount, more than enough to supplement his life, but that the decisions about the rest of it were mine, and mine alone, and that they had been made already. He said his wife was going to be upset. I said that wasn't my problem. He left without having dinner, I stood at the window and watched his taillights disappear down the street, past the maple tree, past the place where the sidewalk cracks every spring, and the city never fixes it. My daughter called me the following Sunday. Her tone was different, not the checked-out silence of that first Saturday, but something more careful. She asked how I was doing. She asked about the bathroom renovation. She asked if I wanted her to come over for dinner sometime. I said yes, come whenever you want. I think she was always more observer than participant. I think she watched her brother and her sister-in-law and understood, somewhere, that she had been brought along to a performance she hadn't agreed to be part of. She never said any of this directly, but she came for dinner the following Friday, and she helped me pick out tiles from a catalog, and at some point she said, quietly, that Mom had been a remarkable woman. I agreed with her, more than I could explain. The bathroom was finished in late February. Heated floors, just as Barbara wanted. The double vanity. The freestanding tub that I've never actually used, but that makes the room look exactly like the picture my wife had cut out of a magazine and kept in a kitchen drawer for years. I used Barbara's estate to set up a bursary through the University of Toronto, an annual award for mature students returning to education after a career break. Barbara herself had always wanted to finish her degree. She hadn't. I didn't know that until I found a folder in the storage unit with a university application she'd filled out in 2006 and never sent. I did it in her name. The condo in Hamilton I kept. It still generates rental income every month, deposited now into an account I manage myself. It's not a fortune, but it's steady. It's hers. My son-in-law, my daughter's husband, called me once in the spring to ask what Barbara's investment strategy had been. He said it in a casual way, like he was just curious. I told him she had kept things simple. Index funds, time, and patience. I didn't say the rest of it. That she had also kept things quiet. That she had understood something about the future that most people don't want to look at directly. Some days I go to the storage unit just to sit in it for a few minutes. I know that sounds strange. The bins are still there, though I've moved some of them to the house. The filing cabinet is still in the corner. The hook on the inside of the door where the envelope hung is still there, just an empty hook now. But when I stand in that small cold space, I feel something I don't feel anywhere else. I feel the weight of 31 years of quiet, deliberate love, the kind that doesn't announce itself. The kind that just builds, month by month, year by year, in the background of a life you think you understand. Barbara was not a dramatic woman. She never would have called what she did a plan, or a strategy, or a long game. She would have said she was just being careful. She would have said she was just looking after her family. She was the most careful person I ever knew. And in the end, she looked after all of us, even the ones who didn't deserve it, and especially the one who didn't know he needed it. I still drink my tea cold sometimes, old habits, but I drink it now in the bathroom she designed, with the heated floors warm under my feet, and I tell her about my day the way I always did. She doesn't answer, of course, but then again, she never had to say much. She always made herself understood. I still think about the moment I pulled that key out of the envelope. Small, silver, unremarkable. It looked like something you'd find at the bottom of a junk drawer. But Barbara had placed it there deliberately, the way she did everything, quietly, without fanfare, with complete intention. That's the part I keep coming back to. Not the money, not the condo in Hamilton, or the TFSA statements, or the investment accounts. What I keep coming back to is the 31 years of choosing, every single month, to do the right thing even when nobody was watching. That's not luck. That's not instinct, that's character, built slowly, the way good things always are. My son stood in the same kitchen where his wife had laid out her folder, and he looked at me like I owed him an explanation. But the truth is that what happened to him wasn't something I did to him. It was something he did to himself over years and years, in small choices he probably didn't even notice he was making. The way he looked away when his wife spoke for him. The way he arrived at my house 11 days after his mother's funeral with research on real estate prices. Those weren't accidents, they were a pattern. And Barbara had seen that pattern long before I did, because she had always been the more honest observer of the two of us. What she left behind wasn't just money. It was a demonstration of what it looks like to think clearly under pressure, to see a situation for what it actually is, rather than what you wish it were. She didn't panic. She didn't confront. She didn't spend 31 years being bitter about what her son might do someday. She just built something, quietly, month by month, with the kind of long-range thinking that most people abandon the moment it becomes inconvenient. I'm 68 years old, and I spent 4 decades believing I was the practical one in our marriage, the engineer, the one with the pension and the plan. It turns out Barbara was running a more sophisticated operation than anything I ever managed, and she did it without a single meeting or a spreadsheet anyone else could see. That takes something I didn't fully appreciate until I stood in that storage unit in Mississauga, in the cold, reading her handwriting on a letter she'd written, knowing she wouldn't be there when I found it. It takes the willingness to keep going, even when the outcome is uncertain, even when the work is invisible, even when the person you're protecting doesn't know he needs protecting. That kind of persistence, not the loud, dramatic kind, but the steady, daily kind, is harder than it looks. Most people can't sustain it for a month. Barbara sustained it for 31 years. I set up the bursary in her name because I wanted something of hers to keep moving in the world. But honestly, the real thing she left me wasn't the trust or the condo or the heated bathroom floor. It was the understanding that integrity isn't a moment, it's a practice, and that the people who love you most are sometimes the ones doing the most careful, invisible work on your behalf, long before you ever think to ask. I just wish I'd told her I noticed. I think somewhere she knew I would. Eventually,